pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can you please make sure that your phones are either turned on or turned off or on silent, please? Okay. We're going to start with public forum. I'm just going to go in the order that you signed up. So, Willow?
I think Willow's here for our presentations.
Yep.
Okay. Braden?
Also here for our presentations.
Ben?
What?
Did you say he was speaking? I thought you meant...
He is.
But is there anybody here not speaking with the presentation with Mr. Smiley? Okay, fantastic. Thanks for marking yes and throwing me off. And I'm sorry, Braden, because your parent told you to write the wrong thing.
No.
All right, then we'll start with Mr. Smiley.
Absolutely. I'd like to introduce Mr. Wanick. He's our 6th grade science teacher, also the boys modified soccer coach, and also he is in charge of the middle school gardening club. We had a great harvest this year, and he's going to go through, we're going to bring up some of the 6th graders he's going to introduce, and we are going to present our gardening club.
Great, thank you. Thanks for having us here. So Willow, come on up. Willow Party, Liam Humphrey, Braden Noble, and Cadence Crawford. Their parents and them also very gracious to come here today to talk about. This is our core, part of our core group. There's 3 more students that couldn't make it, but this year they've been instrumental in our garden club, so it's been really great. Let's see, what else happened? So let's see, started last fall. We got some grant money through 21st Century Grant, so it was great. We got to have these meadow planters. Clicker, do you have it? Okay. You'll see them in the pictures, right? So you can go ahead and forward to the next one. Those meadow planters, we put them together last fall, and it was tough because the garden club was just ad hoc. Some kids could come one week, and then nobody could come the next week, and then sometimes I'd have kids doing homework in 10th period, and I'd be like, all right, now you're done, let's put these planters together. So I did just grab kids here and there and everywhere. Same thing with the planting of all that stuff last year. Okay, so let's go next. All right, so what do we have in here? We've got corn and kale, and we got a pretty good harvest of things this year. It grew really fast. Last year I had to come and water up myself, and I didn't get that many kids to come and help. It wasn't the greatest, but I was able to do that. But this year we had the summer school children to help out with that, and the summer school teachers, so they were always out there checking it out. All right, Brandon. We got a lot of good onions, and you can see marigolds to keep stuff from getting maybe pests. All right, let's keep going. This is still growing through the summer and then into the fall. All right, now we're getting to you guys. So what do we got going on here, Braden?
We're picking carrots.
Mm-hmm. And feel free to, you guys can stop us at any time and tell us what you see and what we're doing, right? All right. So we got some good green beans. Those got huge, and we didn't really get to get a good harvest except through the summer. All right.
We're picking eggplants right there. Then we're picking other different vegetables. Then more vegetables. Corn.
What do you remember here, Cadence?
We were picking the corn.
Lots of good carrots. We did a whole 2 beds of carrots because those are actually servable in the lunchroom. It's kind of hard to get carrots, things that last into the fall that we can actually serve. So carrots turned out to be a good one for that. And the eggplant.
Washing the carrots and vegetables.
Wow.
So you guys may have got to see this on Facebook or on the district website. So that's the staff at the cafeteria did that. I just gave them we gave them dirty vegetables, and they did this. Yes, I'm surprised that eggplant went over fairly well. My children actually don't really like eggplant, and a lot of people hate the consistency. So Chef Hicks here cooking it up. Yes, keep going. Students actually trying it, which is fantastic.
Yes.
Yes, I believe if you use Facebook or you saw the district website, these are the same pictures from that. All right, keep going. I love it. Okay, this is in the fall, right, Brayden? You were part of out there, and there's Cadence getting, what are you doing? You're getting soil ready. So we're getting ready for some fall planting. Go ahead. We had to tear out all those things. And what's one of your favorite parts about tearing out the plants?
Take them down to the woods.
Yeah, that's the favorite part. They like to run out to the woods, dump the stuff on the compost way back there. Still keeping the marigolds.
Now we're planting the vegetables.
Right,
More
so
of them.
Cadence, I tasked you with doing that. What do you got going on there?
I was putting the soil into the little border things, and then you put the seeds in them.
Yeah, we'll get to see those seeds at the end. So we're getting soil ready into those little tiny planters for seedlings. Leaving out all the soil. All right, keep going.
And now we're planting the seeds inside of those little things.
Yeah, we had to make sure that the seeds are the right depth. Lettuce seeds hardly get covered, right? All right. There's our kale,
I'm growing.
Swiss chard, arugula. Lettuce still hasn't started yet. Big take. So Willow, give us your little.
I chose to join the garden club because I love having to plant stuff and getting to help the cafeteria out with picking food from the garden so the cafeteria chefs can make food for the kids to eat. And one of the most memorable moments so far was when I first came to garden club and got to see all of the other kids who wanted to help out with the garden. And I am looking forward to learning more about the plants in our garden and getting to plant new vegetables.
I chose to join the garden club because I thought it'd be cool to learn more about plants. One of the most memorable moments so far was when moles jumped out of the little bed, the garden bed things. I'm looking forward to see who can do the biggest pumpkin or watermelon to grow.
I chose to join the garden club because I wanted to see what it was about. One of the most memorable moments so far was watching the seeds grow while I was at school and then planting seeds into the garden so they can grow more. Also when we tried to catch moles. I'm looking forward to planting more seeds including cabbage, corn, more lettuce, and carrots.
I chose to join the gardening club because I wanted to see what we could plant, and so I could have good time to spend with my teachers and friends, and so I can learn how to garden. One of the most memorable moments so far was picking the plants and planting seeds. I am looking forward to planting eggplants, tomatoes, carrots, and jalapenos.
Actually, the moles is really hilarious because this is something new for me. I haven't had moles in my garden ever. And we did all those carrot beds and they were in there. And some of the carrots had been chewed. We set those to the side and we didn't serve those. But like many of the carrots had just like chewed right out of the middle in the ground. And then they popped right out and it was so startling that they just jumped right out. And you even caught one under the bucket, right? But we decided to let it go and let it slide.
Oh.
We didn't have to.
Really?
So this is something we'll have to worry about, like how are we gonna deal with moles in the future, right?
Whose classroom is this near that you have?
So it's right outside, right outside room 435, it's right outside our window, so the science room, and it's like it's in that like alcove with the gym and my room and the next rooms. Pretty cool. It's been a lot of fun. So we're looking for some more teacher involvement, and now looking forward to getting some high schoolers involved. That's what I'd like to do. All right, I think that's all we have. Unless there are questions. More questions, yeah.
Fantastic job.
All right, good.
Folks, before you sit down, Mrs. DeVitti has coins for you. Yeah, we'll get them up here.
Coins.
Yes. These are better than money. So come on up, and this is a token of appreciation for coming and presenting to us tonight. So thank you very much. It says our Red Creek seal on it. Congratulations.
You guys did a great job. Got some fun. If you want to sneak out, run now. Zoology. Thank you, guys. You did fantastic.
Yeah.
This is, Davini, this is going to be a hard act to follow. And you're not getting a coin, so.
I should have brought some of the cooked vegetables. Made it better. All right, so I am here to bring you just a quick fall update on data. I know that we have talked before about keeping that in a consistent format. I think Mr. Van Norman already updated you. This will go up on our website after our superintendent conference day at the end of the week. So this has, just like you saw last year, all of the data for every grade level. We want our teachers to be able to unpack all of that on Friday. So I'll give you just kind of that 10,000-foot overview and hopefully get through without coughing. So just as a reminder for you all of our mission and vision, our instructional vision, we've really been focusing on getting to that place of being a data-driven culture. So on Friday, when our staff are establishing their growth goals for the year, we'll ask them to think about that aim higher idea. You know, what can we do to push just a little further, get a little bit better, improve a little bit more? So they'll be really diving into the various standard reports. Unfortunately, for them, they don't get one nice compiled report at the end. They have about 20 different reports that they can look at, looking at standards by teacher and across the grade levels to be able to compare what's working in each classroom. So, you know, we'll continue with that piece with them. So they'll establish their growth goals for this year that we'll follow up on mid-year and then again at the end of the year as well. So just like last year, this data report that they'll see and that will go up on our website continues to track students by cohort. So you get that one-page snapshot of a grade level cohort. Where are they performing well? What are their needs? We also will continue to track performance year over year at the same grade level. So you'll see 6th grade performance year after year after year, and the same thing with our Regents exams. Again, this will go up both for the end of the school year and then starting the new report for this new school year after our teachers have a chance to review that on Friday. So, again, just a reminder, this is the same image from last year. Everything that we're doing with data is really trying to find that sweet spot in the middle here. So we're looking at all these different sources of data to try to make sure that the decisions we're making moving forward for our students are where all those data sources overlap so that we're making the best decisions we can for our students. So within all of those pages of data, I've pulled out some pieces that are really noteworthy and worth recognizing for our students. So if you think back to January, Haley was here and presented on MTSS, and she had the triangles. So we talk about having, at tier 3, those students who need the most intensive supports. That should be about 5% of your students. Very rarely in education do we see what's called a perfect triangle, where students are falling into those 3 categories in the percentages that somebody somewhere deemed appropriate. Our kindergarten team has an almost perfect triangle for their students for last year. So that means for those students in reading and math, only about 5% of them are at that highest need level for support. There's about 10 to 15% in that second level of support, and then the majority of the students are in that tier 1 support. So that tells us we've got this cohort on the right track. It's our job now to keep them on that right track as they progress through. So In this set of recognitions, this is their local diagnostic data. So their iReady, their FastBridge, their DIBELS testing that they're doing. You can see some significant growth there for our kindergarten and first grade teams. Again, also for our second grade team. Fifth grade showed some significant growth with their iReady math. Fourth grade with their iReady reading. And then second grade, we did a mid-year celebration for them. They showed the largest growth at the middle of the year mark. So again, they showed a 40% growth in mastery. So that's the highest level. Students who are above grade level improved by 40%, from 6% of the whole class to 46% at the end of the year. We also, on the flip side of that, saw some significant decreases in those students who are color-coded red, needing the highest level of support. So students scoring 2 grade levels below decreased by 20% in reading in second grade. So again, second grade really saw that significant movement. Fourth grade iReady, fifth grade iReady math. I don't need to read them to you. I know you all have a copy of that. But just some places that we're seeing those signs of movement in the right direction. So we want to see, in the most simplest of terms, if you think back to the data report from last year, we want to see the reds and yellows decreasing, those students who are performing below grade level. And we want to see those blues and greens, students who are at or above grade level, increasing. So we're seeing those movements in a variety of places, so that allows us to come back to the table with our teams and say, okay, what worked? What caused this growth in the green? What caused this reduction in the red? How do we maximize that? How do we continue to grow upon that? Within our 3 through 8 state testing, we continue to be in good standing as a district. Our 5th grade math and ELA team, I think when the coaches were here in December, maybe they talked about their work with the teams. And our 5th grade team, most of them worked very closely with Michelle McIntyre last year as their coach. Early on in the year, they said, we want to make a different name for ourselves. We hear year after year that the test scores at 5th grade are crummy. We want to change that. We want to turn that around. And it's a huge point of celebration for our 5th grade team and the work that they did, and Michelle's work with them as well. That when I say in at least 8 years, I only went back 8 years, but for the first time in 8 years, those 5th grade scores improved for the same cohort. So where those students, what we've seen every other year when the students go from 4th grade to 5th grade, their performance drops from 4th to 5th, or when they're in 5th grade. This year, it turned around. So that, again, is a huge celebration. We know that we want to continue to see those numbers improve and increase, but if we can start to turn that back the other direction sooner, it makes for a much smaller gap for us to make up, later on. So at 6th grade, we had an almost all new 6th grade team. We did see an increase in proficiency levels, so scoring 3s and 4s in ELA. At 7th grade math, again, an increase in proficiency level. One thing that I love about looking at the data is really diving into the power of a teacher. So for those of you who maybe went to school here, Mr. Pitts was perhaps a teacher when you were here teaching 7th grade math. And so when I look at year over year performance at 7th grade, he's within about a 10% range of where he gets his cohorts to. This particular cohort that he had last year came to him significantly lower than most of the other cohorts that he'd had in previous years. But at the end of the year, he got them right into that same area and same mark that he did with cohorts that came in performing at a higher level. So that tells me that teachers who know their curriculum and know the ins and outs of what it is that they're doing can make that movement, which then sets up at 8th grade level for us to continue to see significant improvements and success at our 8th grade math. So for the 3rd year in a row, our 8th grade math has the highest proficiency rate, so highest level of 3s and 4s in our BOCES region. So again, that's a huge, as we said last year, a huge congratulations to Rachel Malka and all of her work that she's doing with her students. but she would tell you that it's the work of her team before her and helping to get students on the right track. So those are some really great, exciting pieces with our 3 through 8 data, that we're excited to continue to grow upon. Within our Regents exams for this year, and you did see some of this from me in a summer board update, we had a cohort of students this year who took Honors 10, so they're 10th graders who we challenged to take the English 11 Regents exam. So New York State allows students to earn credit by exam if they score 85% or above on that exam. So of those students who were 10th graders who sat for that exam, 75% of them earned that credit by exam. So the key to that is to make sure that they don't say, woohoo, no English for a year and go take a study hall. Those students then are encouraged to go on and take an AP class and just continue to have those greater opportunities, especially in their senior year. If they've earned their 4 credits of English, they can certainly continue to take another AP class, or they can pick up another elective or college level course as well. So that's a huge exciting piece for our students, and again speaks to the level of work that we're asking our students to do. We're hoping to continue to grow that as we think about aiming higher. All right, so we had about, I should have put the number in here, I think it was around 12 or 13 students who sat for that exam this year. All right, how do we make that number a little higher next year? We've added in an honors 9th grade English class, so how do we continue to grow those numbers? 8 out of our 10 Regents exams did see an improvement in proficiency or passing rate. Our geometry passing rate increased by 35%, higher than BOCES average. So we also get reports back from our BOCES comparing all of our scores to all of the other districts in our BOCES. So on Algebra 2, geometry, chemistry, and physics, our scores were higher than the BOCES average. And then within Wayne County, our scores were higher than the Wayne County average for living environment, which was equal to the average, and then earth science and US history. We did have a 100% proficiency or passing rate for Algebra 2, and our highest mastery rate, students scoring that 85 or above, was in Algebra 2 as well. So that, all of our students who took Algebra 2 this year were taught by a teacher who was new to us last year, Bridget Johnson. So we're excited to continue to have her in our district and continue to grow our math program there as well. So when we see great numbers coming out of 8th grade for math, and then we see high levels of achievement at Algebra 2, it gives us a lot of hope that our students are finding success in math and that we can help them to continue to grow that. There also is some information here for you about our graduation rate. For last year, the rate for our building was 84%. So that factors in students who have dropped out over the course of their high school career. Going back to when they entered as 9th graders, we track them. So if they move to another district and enroll, they come off of our list. But if they drop out at some point during their high school, they're counted in our rates. So at the start of the year, we had 58 students from that original cohort who began the year. 57 of those 58 walked across our stage in June. One of those students was accepted to college. The one who did not walk across our stage was accepted to college at FLCC and chose to take the high school equivalency exam and directly enter FLCC that way. Of those students who graduated, 5 of them earned the seal of biliteracy, 6 earned the seal of civic readiness, 11 students graduated with a CTE endorsement, so that's a career and technical education, something that's typically earned at BOCES. And 11 of those students earned a Regents with advanced designation. So again, as we continue to think about that aim higher, I know Mr. Norman has talked a lot about how do we get it so 75 or 90% of our students are earning that seal of civic readiness. What does that look like in our coursework to make sure that more of our students are earning those seals? So we're excited that the seal of biliteracy has really relaunched and has a committee driving that work behind it. We're grateful for our social studies department leading that work of the seal of civic readiness and excited to see where those numbers go in the next few years to track their growth as well. The other thing to add with this too, regarding our high school team, So in the middle of the year, obviously Mr. Carter and Mr. Wallace were new in their positions last year. As they came in and they're trying to get brought up to speed on where things are in the high school, they started to meet with our seniors and track where they were in terms of credits and exams and what they needed to be able to get across the graduation stage. Normally, we would want that to happen much sooner than January of their senior year. So Mr. Carter and his spreadsheet guru skills now has a document tracking all of our high school students. So that has become a proactive process where they're monitoring after each semester, where are our students, where are they earning credit, where are they falling down, who needs to make up exams, so that we're not getting to that place in a student's senior year and saying, oh no, Kate still has to take 3 Regents exams, how are we going to get her across the stage? So as we continue to move forward, a couple of areas of concern that we want to continue to dive into. So we're continuing to track subgroup performance. So if you remember last year, we talked about breaking down performance between male and female students, or economically disadvantaged students and not economically disadvantaged students. We still continue to see those inequities. So that will be some work for us continuing to move forward to make sure that we're providing equitable outcomes for all of our students. We're continuing to track the work that's happened, especially at our Kyler building the last few years around the science of reading and what that impact will have for our students as they continue to get to the 3 through 8 testing. That created some most significant shifts at kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. So we're looking to see the outcome and impact of that for our students as they get to the state testing level. Last year, if you remember, we did priority standard identification with all of our grade levels and departments. So our teachers went through and analyzed state testing data to say which standards are tested most frequently. And then on Friday, they'll be comparing those reports against, or those identified standards against the reports of how our students performed. So if standard RL2 has 40% of the test questions on it, and our students are performing below average on that standard, then our teachers know we have to focus in on that standard and provide more support there for our students. So we'll continue to work with those priority standards. Those continue to update each year as we see new tests and how many questions. So the priority standards fluctuate each year because they're calculated based on how many standards or how many questions on the state test were asked based on those standards. So they'll have updated information for those on Friday as well. Last year, we also saw new exams for 5th grade and 8th grade science, as well as algebra. And this school year, there will be new exams, Regents exams for geometry, living environment, and earth science. So we'll see a full sweep over the next few years within our math department and within our science department, updating those exams. I think the biggest thing in those shifts we've seen over the last few years as well with our social studies exams is the shift to asking students to think and analyze more so than just memorizing. So if you think back to taking your global Regents or your US history Regents, there were a lot of dates you had to memorize and study. Some of us did not do so well with that memorization piece. And now with our changes in 3 through 8 testing, our students are asked to read and infer and analyze text. That is reaching our Regents exams as well. So we're expecting to see some changes in our scores. Our high school teachers have already started to say, all right, what's the best path for our students? How do we compare how our students have traditionally done on their Regents exams with how we expect them to do on a new exam when we've seen 20 sample questions. So they're really starting to dive into that, especially our science department. They're really analytical about what that looks like, the shifts to the new exams. So that will be coming our way this year as well. And then, of course, we'll always continue to monitor those students who saw a lower performance level. So maybe last year they were a 3 and this year they moved to a 2. We want to dive into that and say, all right, what happened if, sorry, Kate, I'll pick on you again. If Kate was a level 3 in 6th grade and now she's a level 2 in 7th grade, what created that change for her? So we'll look at attendance data, we'll look at course performance to try to dive in to see what was it that caused that. Is it something that we can change in terms of our curriculum or our instructional style, or does Kate need additional supports, encouraging her to come to school or connecting with the school in some way, shape, or form? So with all of that said, just a quick reminder for you, we talked about the new assessments. Our new ELA and math curriculum both weigh very heavily in the development of those thinking skills. So as we talked about the shifts in those exams and asking our students to make those bigger leaps to thinking and analyzing text, our new curriculum asks students to do that every day. As a mom, my daughter has been in tears over her homework more than not, and I love it. I love seeing that. Not that I don't love seeing my kids cry, but I love that she's having to work and think. So this is my 5th grade daughter. So she has homework every night, and she is really having to analyze the text to say, all right, this is some figurative language. What does this mean? So I love seeing that she's being pushed to that level to have to work and think through it. There isn't one clear right answer. So we'll continue to support our students as they move, through that new curriculum and make those leaps. And we'll continue to work toward having that guaranteed and viable curriculum. So that ensures that regardless of who your 3rd grade teacher is, students are leaving 3rd grade with the same educational experience. They've focused in on the same standards, they've completed the same assessments, and we're comparing apples to apples outcomes for our students as they progress from grade level to grade level. So as I alluded, Friday is our October Superintendent's Conference Day. Our staff will be continuing to review data and establishing their growth goals for this year. I have a SMART goal check sheet that they'll be working through to make sure that they're creating SMART goals that will track throughout the year. Our instructional coaches and administrators will continue to provide training throughout the year on those high impact teaching strategies. So making sure that what we're doing day in and day out is intentional with our students, that we're choosing strategies for teaching that are shown through research to accelerate student growth and achievement. We'll continue to work through the bumps and bruises of adopting a new curriculum. I think Mrs. Kaiser said earlier this year, it's a 3-year process. Don't expect to see the big movement for 3 years. Our staff are in deep right now on that curriculum adoption work. They are working really hard to prepare and read through all of the materials and make sure that they're putting their best foot forward for their students. So if you see one of our, especially elementary teachers who are knee deep in that work right now, offer them a pillow, a nap, some words of encouragement, because this is the hard lift for them right now, is in that work. And then we'll continue to make adjustments as we go forward. Our goal is to continue to aim higher. So when we say, all right, and we're excited that 7th or 8th grade math is the highest in our BOCEs for 3 years, we're not hanging our hat up and saying, ooh, we're done. We're saying, all right, so what about those 30% of our students who didn't reach proficiency levels? What are their needs? How do we tweak things to get them the support they need to be in those proficiency numbers as well? All right, I think we talked through all of these pieces. So, questions?
Anybody? Your comments to me weren't that far off during high school, so I'm really not offended. I do have one question, Jen. If you could maybe go back to the list that you gave with the like the pluses, the positives that happened. It was right towards the, yeah. Okay, so you stated at one point that you had some sort of celebration or party for the 2nd grade. So I just have a question, and I'm sure there's much more into this than a quick answer, but why do you see it as 2nd grade? I mean, do you think it's the team? Do you think it's just that group of students?
So last year when we focused in on that, their celebration was a blue and green party. As simple as so they were moving the most students to those blue and green performance levels. There were some silly blue and green decorations. They had little treats in those colors, just classroom celebrations. I think the thing to note with our second grade team, from the initial superintendent conference day last year where we dove into data, they were really focused and driven and analytical, trying to figure out what it was that their students needed. I'm grateful that Mrs. Snyder has returned from retirement to bless us with her skills again. You know, for someone who knew she was retiring, had 30-some years of experience in, there wasn't a tiny bit of, oh yeah, we're going to write this off. And I would say that that is consistent across our grade level teams. That team, for whatever reason, with what they were doing, being data analysts and adjusting what they were doing throughout the year, saw significant growth based on that. They have asked for Friday to have a preview of third grade state test scores. So they want a copy of all of the priority standards for third grade and then the released state test questions so that they can do more to start to prepare students for that level. I think some of it is veteran teachers at the grade level who know their curriculum and are comfortable to be able to make those adjustments. But I would also say as a team, they are a group of very analytical teachers who want to make those shifts however they can.
No, that's great. And the reason I asked is just because, especially in Mr. Taylor's building, there's, you know, with enrollment changes, there's shifts in teachers. So, you know, does that ever come into consideration when you're analyzing some of this data that, you know, maybe Mrs. Snyder was in second grade at one point and now she's not in second grade anymore? Do we see a shift? Does it stay consistent? And so I was just wondering if that's considered when you're doing that.
Yeah, so at second grade, Amy Fink, Becky Snyder, Tammy Curtis have all been anchors at that grade level for several years. Carly Nodine moved to second grade last year. She had experience with state testing from her years at fifth grade, so she was able to bring that to the team to share and collaborate. But certainly where we saw an almost all new third grade team this year, you can see the impact of that in our data. You know, just like they say at board member training, it takes you 3 years before you figure out what it is that you're doing as a board member. It takes a few years of going through your curriculum and going through the day in and day out lessons before you feel like, all right, I've really got this. You know, most people don't have what Rich Pitts has of an entire career teaching the same grade level.
Yeah.
But that certainly makes him the expert in that material when you're willing to dive in and continue to learn and grow.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Mrs. Devaney. Gentlemen?
Perfect. We'll let them switch the PowerPoint. We'll let them switch the PowerPoint over. Perfect. So last month, we released information about the Red Creek MVP program. That is something one of our board committees has been working through. We released information at our last board meeting. After that board meeting occurred, we sent out information both in email to our faculty and staff, but also pushed it out on social media to our community. And it was almost instantaneous, the amount of positive contributions we received. So you see there's approximately 30 names that were recognized as being Red Creek MVPs for a variety of different reasons. The nice thing that when you look at that list, it's a blend of administrators, teachers, and non-teaching staff members from a variety of different areas, different grade levels, different buildings. So really a comprehensive look across our district. Additionally, when you look at who was recommending these individuals, it was not just internal people. A lot of these came from community members that were reaching out and recognizing some of the work and effort of our employees. So just a super great response to this at this point. Earlier this week, I had the pleasure and opportunity to hand deliver letters to each of these recipients with details of why they were recognized and the outpouring of emotion and excitement that each of them displayed was infectious, really. So we'll continue to kind of promote this program. I think it's a great opportunity to recognize people in our district that are doing great things for our kids. So kudos to everybody that's been involved with that.
I have to say, one of the people on this list, I was going to recommend myself, and I was speaking to a teacher about this particular individual, and she actually said to me, "Oh, I've already done it." And I thought, it's not a person on the board, so I thought, geez, people are actually reading those hundreds of emails they get a week from the school, and she had already submitted the name, so I just thought that was really great.
Yeah. We take extra recommendations or nominations for the same person, so in the future you can...
I figured it, it's
Right.
already done, so.
The other thing that I wanted to take a few moments to recognize is our school board education members. Next week actually is School Board Recognition Week, so we don't have a board meeting next week. Ours was this week, so I thought it was more appropriate this week to take the time to formally recognize the efforts and time that all of our board members devote to this district. So selfless, many hours preparing for board meetings, reading agendas, reading my transmittals on a weekly basis, communicating with our community members, being a voice and an ear for our community to filter information back and forth. So, thank you all for your tireless dedication to this district and helping to continue to make this district such a special place. So public recognition in front of each of you, there is a physical token of that appreciation. There's a nice mug emblazed with our seal. And next week we'll be continuing to promote School Board Recognition Week on our social media pages and things as well. So thank you all for your work and efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have no more presentations.
Okay, great. Perfect, we'll move on. All right, could I have a motion, please, for the minutes of the regular meeting of the 18th? Thank you, Mrs. Kaiser. Second by Mrs. Allen. Any questions, corrections on these? All in favor? Aye. And any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, Nancy. All right, moving on to the consent agenda.
I'll make a recommendation to approve the consent agenda 1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please? Mr. Joyce? Any questions on this group? Filling in those coaches, Mr. Welcher. Look at you go. We do? We're gonna talk about her now? Not in July or June?
She's on there.
Okay. Mrs. Dingman, can we make a small change and modify your motion to remove, anyone can help me?
E31.
Okay,
You certainly can.
thank you very much, Mr. Joyce. Would you accept that?
I will.
Thank you. Okay. Questions on everything but E31? Okay, when you're ready.
Mrs. Kaiser?
Yes.
Mrs. Dingman?
Just look right by me.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen? And Mrs. Madigan?
Yes, thank you. Okay, I would take a motion for E31, please. Mrs. Dingman, a second by Mrs. Allen. And if Mrs. Pitts is watching, just snuck right by me, so. Mr. Mahoney.
Certainly. So normally this would be something that we would accept a little bit later in the school year, but Mrs. Pitts has tendered her resignation for retirement purposes effective the end of the school year this year. Just a little bit of data. Tara was hired back in September of 1993, so over 30 years teaching here for us. In addition to her teaching foreign language Spanish for us, she is of course very active with club student activities. She's leading the charge in bringing a group of our students this fall to Barcelona. Of course, anybody that's met Tara picks up on her high energy, her positivity. She just truly enjoys being here and working with all of our students on a daily basis. It's going to be a big loss for us. She's kind of going out on top. She's going out on her terms. She's still very active, still has a lot of passion. She's just going to take that passion and devote it to her family and some of those endeavors that are important to her at this time. So, I'm sad for us, but certainly happy to see Tara leaving on her terms and under good health. So, wishing her well. Thank you for so many years of helping all of our students get through our foreign language program. Well wishes in retirement.
Perfect. We need Jolene here to make like some sappy when she started teaching here story. But all right. Anything else for Mrs. Pitts? When you're ready.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Mrs. Dingman?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser? Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
And Mrs. Madigan?
Yes. Thank you. All right. Moving on to F, new business. Would anyone like to offer Mrs. Dingman?
Make a motion.
Oh,
1 through 6.
Mrs. Dingman, would you second? Questions about this group? Comments? Are you ready?
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser?
Yes.
Mrs. Dingman?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
And Mrs. Madigan?
Yes. Thank you. Okay, administrative reports. Any questions from the group? Okay, Mr. Van Orman, do you want to talk about attendance?
Yeah, so in your transmittal, you should have, or in the agenda, you should have seen, I've been working on trying to get an update relative to, as you hear us talk at our MTSS meetings and data about student attendance, we wanted to provide a month-to-month update on each grade level where we are attendance-wise. So, UPK and K are historically our lowest attendance rates for a variety of reasons. One, they're not required programs for us to. They're just more susceptible to daily germs and all the other things that come with being in such a public setting. But overall, we're hovering right around 95% attendance. Historically, we've been a school that's had strong attendance overall, using our MTSS systems to pay attention to our attendance so that kids are not falling behind in terms of missing class, which then means missed assignments, which then means lack of knowledge. Really is, we want to stay away from chronic absenteeism, which is any student missing over 10% or 18 school days for us approximately. Those are high indicators of student dropout rates, which ties in with our graduation rate, which of course you just were presented with. The second little chart in there included information about just our enrollment data. It's something that I think gets asked about quite frequently, is just where are we in terms of our enrollment data. I think my interpretation of this data would be that we're basically flat enrollment since 2018, the start of 2018. Prior to that, we were quite a bit higher, but since 2018, we've been fairly steady. We're going to track that. Often, you'll see it kind of fluctuate throughout the course of the year as families maybe move in or move out at some of the different grade levels. So we're going to be tracking all that data, and we'll just kind of continue to compile that throughout the chart. But we are, effectively, we're up 3 students from this time last year. So up is always good in enrollment. So questions on the readability of it or if it doesn't present the way that I just described it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any committee updates? No? Nancy?
No,
Okay.
we've been meeting steadily every
Thanks.
month, but thank you.
Perfect. Okay. Anything else? I'd take a motion to adjourn. Mrs. Dingman and a second by Mrs. Kaiser. Thank you, guys. Make sure you get signed off by